YouTube, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of COMMCast. I'm your host, George Gaston. COMMCast is a production of the Longwood University Communication Studies Department and COM 434 Comm Lab. It's a show where we get to know members of the Longwood and Farmville communities. On today's show, let's get to know Mayor Brian Vincent. For being here, man. Really appreciate it. So let's start out with a couple questions. We want to know what motivated you to get into city government in the first place?
There was a real inspiration to provide an example, once on like a micro level, to provide an example to my two daughters, 9 and 11, what my version of leadership would look like in the world, right? Like seeing a version of leadership sort of in politics on a national level that I didn't necessarily want them to emulate. I wanted to provide a model that I felt was better. So that was one of the main motivating factors.
Yeah. And do you see your daughters interested in the work that you do? Do you think they'll get into public leadership at one day?
Absolutely. They both have campaigned with me twice now. So they campaigned when I ran for town council 4 years ago. And then they campaigned again with me when I ran for mayor. And one of them, or both of them, have actually run for office in school. And my eldest just attended a NAACP banquet with me just this past week and heard Congresswoman McClellan speak. And she spoke about having, after met my daughter, spoke how she got involved in politics at the age of 11, which is the age of my eldest, and how one day perhaps Martha Lucy will be standing in those shoes as a congresswoman, which I would not be surprised, because that girl will run through a wall to get what she wants.
Good for her. Good for her. So what's it like balancing the community and the two colleges in the town of Farmville?
Man, it's a great relationship. I think it got to be a much better relationship under the tenure of the previous mayor, David Whitus, who was a graduate from Longwood. And so that relationship, I think, continued to grow there. And then President Reevely and myself have a good relationship as well. And it's a very symbiotic relationship. What's good for the town is good for the university and vice versa. And so, it also breathes a great deal of energy into the town with like a continued cycle of fresh ideas, which is always advantageous for a rural area.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're very close to the town of Farmville. How long have you lived here?
I've lived here for about 11 years. My wife grew up here. We moved back here in 2012 and live right up the street on High Street. So
great.
Short walk up the road.
Fantastic. So how does owning the Appomattox River Company teach you to be a better mayor?
Well, technically my father-in-law still owns Appomattox River Company.
Okay.
And I run the joint. And it's similar to any other enterprise. It's moving pieces, it's management of personalities, being proactive as far as like your mindset and making sure that when you're game planning, you're thinking long-term but acting now, right? Like there's an urgency to make efforts to advance forward in the now while also thinking, all right, what does this mean 5 to 10 years down the road? And so in that capacity, they're very similar.
Sure, moving forward, the game plan.
Continuous. I spoke, as we were talking earlier, I spoke at Convocation, and that mantra of relentless clarity of purpose is one of those things that really sticks in my head with both management of a business and being mayor of Farmville.
Mm-hmm. It's really, really, really interesting insight. What's one thing you've learned as mayor that's surprised you and that's you've brought into either your business life or your personal life?
I'm not sure anything has necessarily surprised me. I tend to, if I'm going to get involved in something or seek something out, I do a lot of research on the front end so that I know what I'm walking into. I don't like to walk into something and be kind of caught on the back foot. So a lot of projection forward. What does it mean? What does it look like? So I haven't been caught too off guard. I will say that I underestimated and this is, I always say this to people and it feels like I'm talking to them, but I underestimated the amount of asks that would come that were not directly related to governing, right? Like ceremonial asks, asks for interviews, asks for your opinion on various things. I underestimated the amount of that would happen. It's been great because I get the opportunity to champion this town and the university and other things here. So I enjoy it, but I underestimated the amount.
Well, you're a figurehead now.
That's right.
People love having you speak. So the last week, maybe 2 weeks for you, I'm sure has been a bit precarious in certain areas. In regards to the ICA Center in Farmville here, how do you balance the personal morals with the concerns of the community?
Right, that's a good question, and it touches on what is a rarity for us, which is local government and sort of a national issue, right? Which makes it even more precarious because I am a fiercely independent person, so I don't have partisan ties to one side or the other. And so when I look at an issue like immigration, it's so apparent that it's not advantageous for either of these two political parties to solve that problem because they can fundraise off of it, both of them. Election season right now, it's going to be a great topic for them to bandy about. And that's what's sad about the national level is on the local level, we have to have solutions. On the national level, they can kind of punt it around. Here, locally, you have to consider multiple things, right? There's the philosophical aspect of it, which you've heard some students voice their concerns on. But there's also a practical side of it. It supplies over 250 jobs locally that are federal wage jobs in a rural area that doesn't always have good paying jobs. So you have to be concerned about it. I had a fiance reach out to me the other night via email and say she was concerned. Her and her fiance were about to be married next month. He works there. What does this mean for their future, the town sort of debating this issue? So there's real touch points, not just for the people detained, but for people in this community who work there. And so measuring that out and all the nuances of it, I sometimes see the advantage of being an activist or an advocate because you can dial in on one particular aspect of something and really hammer on that. Whereas a governing body, you kind of have to step back and take this big picture view and weigh cost-benefit analysis for not only the people detained, but also the town, how it affects our revenue streams, how it affects people who are employed in this town, and what that means for them. So it's been a tough issue, but it's one we will get sorted out shortly. The council is still deliberating on it, and there's a couple of negotiations up in the air. But I think you'll find an answer from us before the end of the year on what we're going to do going forward.
Okay, well, thanks for giving us a time frame for when we can expect something.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next segment, COMMCast Fast Trivia, a brand new segment. You're going to be the first guest in here. All right, fast trivia. How many miles is the High Bridge Trail?
All right, how many miles is the High Bridge Trail? I want to say 31 miles because I have run it multiple times, the distance.
Let's see. Very good, 31 miles. Second question, what is the oldest building in Farmville?
I don't know if I know the answer to that question. What is the oldest building in Farmville? I don't know if I know the answer to that question.
Do you want to know what street it's on?
Sure.
It's on Main Street.
It's on Main Street. The courthouse?
North Main Street, more specifically.
Oh, North Main Street. I don't know. What is it?
Answer? The Whitfield Building.
The Whitfield Building, yes. Okay. Dang.
Next question. What is the square mileage of Farmville, Virginia?
8.4 square miles?
Close.
7.4 square
Oh,
miles.
there it is, 7.4. It was his first try. When did Farmville start hosting the Heart of Virginia Festival?
That I don't know. You see my eyes? I'm pretty sure I came across that piece of information recently because we just had it.
We did. It's a great
But
turnout.
I'm on just 1962. I don't know.
Answer? 79.
That was a little early.
When was Farmville formed? Formed.
I know that you're using this word formed. 1798 was when we came to be Farmville, right?
Is that your final answer?
I'm going to go 1798.
Very good. Incorporated in 1912.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks so much for being here, Brian. Really appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us today, and thanks for everyone for watching. For everyone behind the scenes, I'm your host, George Gaston. Tune in next Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. for another edition of COMMCast.